Kate Berg. I work for Norris Design with Lindsay Newman, and our firm has been contracted by Summit County government to help facilitate this next step in the process to plan for a new workforce housing neighborhood for the Summit County workforce on the Lake Hill property, which is along the Dam Road just outside the town of Frisco limits in the unincorporated county owned by Summit County government. And so the purpose of our meeting today is to make sure that we're doing public outreach to inform the community about this project, make sure everybody is aware that it's happening and what the next steps are going to be over the next few months, so that the community has an opportunity to stay engaged and provide input to the county and to the town of Frisco throughout the process over the next few months. So before we get going, we're just going to do a round of introductions with our panelists from the county and the town, and make sure we all know who's on. So I've already introduced myself, but I'll kick it over to the county staff to introduce themselves.
I'll go ahead. Hi, everybody. I'm Jim Kernut. I'm the County Planning Director.
My name's Jason Dietz. I'm the County Housing Director.
Hi, I'm Brandon Howes. I'm a housing planner with the county.
Bob Murphy, Summit Combined Housing Authority Director.
RJ. Robert Jacobs.
Yep, Robert Jacobs, County Engineering Department and Road and Bridge Department.
Don.
From the town of Frisco, Don Reimer, Community Development Director for the town.
All right. Well, thanks to everyone for joining us. I know we're all sick of Zoom calls at this point in time, so thanks for your interest and dedication. This is an exciting project for Summit County. Our workforce housing challenge is real and it's worse than it's ever been. And this is a very exciting opportunity to meet a very critical need in our community. So we're just thrilled to be able to work on it with the county and the town and trying to do our best to get the word out to the public about it. So here we go. This is our agenda for the evening. We have an hour and we're going to try to do our best to just really efficiently get through a presentation in about a half hour. We'll try to keep it as short as possible, but we want to make sure that we're doing a really good overview of this project so everybody has the right background information and knows what's happening. And then we're going to try to keep about half the meeting open for questions and answers. So you know, this is our agenda overviewing the purpose of today's discussion, the project, the providing all the relevant background information, and then providing a really nice overview of what's next to get through this rezoning process the county has just initiated. And then we'll do Q&A. So I'll just jump into the first couple items to make sure we're all clear on what's going to happen in the next hour. Really, the purpose of tonight's meeting is just to start raising public awareness about this project and inform the community about the project, explain what's coming over the next few months as the county works to rezone the property for a workforce housing neighborhood, and just do a high-level review of the draft zoning document, and then really emphasize, you know, what's going to be happening in the next few months with public work sessions for the town of Frisco, the county, planning commissions and board of county commissioners, and what opportunities are going to be available for the public to participate and to provide input as we move forward. This is just the beginning stage and we're really just trying to get the word out right now. We don't have all the answers. We're still developing a lot of the details about this project. So we'll let you know what we know at this point, and there's going to be more to come over the next few months. So logistics for tonight, we're going to try to move through the presentation and then save the questions and answers for the end, just so that we can get all the relevant information out to everybody and then talk about questions and concerns and discussion items. But go ahead and feel free to use the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. You can be submitting your questions throughout the presentation, and all the panelists can see the questions. So we will be tracking those, and as soon as we're done with the presentation, we'll launch into the Q&A. So submit them throughout. And then there is a feature to raise your hand. Just for efficiency and because there's a lot of folks on the call, if we can use the Q&A feature primarily, it's just helpful. And then we can kind of answer questions that all come in that are on the same topic, rather than taking up time with people speaking. If we have time at the end and we get through all the Q&A, we can provide an opportunity for some hand raising, but we'll see how it goes with time. Just a quick overview of this project for anyone who's not familiar. The Lake Hill property is owned by Summit County government. It's about 45 acres along the dam road. The county and the town of Frisco and some other partners have been working collaboratively since the early 2000s to develop, to lay the groundwork to develop this property as a workforce housing neighborhood for people who are employed inside Summit County full time. So we're going to talk about what's happened to date and what's next. This current application that is going to be reviewed by the county over the next few months is the rezoning of the property from Forest Service land, from national forest land. The county bought the property from the Forest Service in 2016, and a master plan was done, and now we're moving forward with the master plan guidance to rezone the property to a PUD to accommodate a workforce housing neighborhood. And so we're going to talk about what that rezoning process looks like over the next few months. And then just so that everyone's clear, this property is in the unincorporated county. It's not inside the town of Frisco limits, but the county and the town of Frisco are working collaboratively to develop this zoning document so that it will be a seamless development and blend well with the surrounding neighborhood and the surrounding town. And then the review process, because it's unincorporated county land, goes through Summit County government. So the applicant is the housing department, the county's housing department, and the review entities are the county's 10-mile basin planning commission and the board of county commissioners. And then our firm, Norris Design, has been contracted by Summit County government to help facilitate this overall rezoning process and do community outreach.
Just share your computer, share your screen.
Oh my goodness. I can't believe I didn't do that. I am so sorry. And thank you for letting me know. I'm sorry, all. That is, can you see it now?
Yep.
All right. So you only missed this, the agenda, the meeting overview, and now the project overview. And I'm so sorry about that. It's been a long day. So the project timeline, just as far as overall schedule over the next couple months, we have already been working kind of to get the application pulled together, the draft rezoning application pulled together, had some meetings with adjacent HOAs and transit board. Now we're launching into community outreach, having a couple of open houses today and trying to get the word out through a variety of other means. And then moving into February, we're going to be having, there are going to be work sessions with the Frisco Planning Commission, the 10-Mile Planning Commission, and the Board of County Commissioners, likely in early March, to start really reviewing this draft application. One thing that I think I failed to mention, which is important, so let me jump back real quick, is just to make sure that everybody's clear that this work session, this rezoning is just being initiated with the very first stage of the process, which is called a work session. And so These first meetings with the planning commissions in February and the Board of County Commissioners in March are just initial discussion. No decisions are going to be made. We're just gathering input on a first draft of the zoning proposal. And then that input is going to be used to actually prepare a formal rezoning application that will then be submitted to the county later in 2022. And so just to emphasize that we're at the beginning and we're still doing input gathering and no answers are final yet. So that's the overall overview of the project. And I'm going to kick this over to Jason to provide a little bit of context on the county housing needs.
Thanks, Kate. Yeah, it's a little bit of background of why workforce housing is so important at Lake Hill. The 2020 County Housing Needs Assessment that was put together by the Summit Combined Housing Authority showed that by 2023, the 10-mile basin will have a shortage of 1,035 units under the 120% AMI range. And then countywide, by 2023, that shortage will be over 3,000 units at 3,066 units under the 120% AMI range. And being that this needs assessment was done pre-COVID, we know that more than likely those shortages in housing are far greater. With the ability for many folks to work from home, it's created a remote worker situation, the Zoom town, as it's been called, where there's a lot more competition for the limited existing housing stock here in Summit County. Next slide, Kate. So, you know, with the things that, you know, the county and everyone is seeing over the last year, you know, first of all, housing's always been in high demand and difficult to find in Summit County. But the housing crisis as it is now, it's never been worse. Last year, the County Board of County Commissioners recently proclaimed a housing crisis. Last year, the Frisco mayor was considering proposing and declaring a housing emergency. The housing shortage currently is negatively impacting every level of our economy, from the service industry, state and local governments, construction, transit, bus operators, emergency services, medical, health services, the school. You know, businesses are closing, being shut down. It's hard to get into a pharmacy. The hours are constantly changing because there's not enough housing to staff the workforce here in Summit County. So Lake Hill is a very important part of the puzzle in helping mitigate the massive housing shortage. Next slide.
Hey, Jason, let me just interrupt real quick. You mentioned AMI several times, and I'm not sure everybody on the call is familiar with that phrase. So if you could maybe real briefly just explain what area median income is all about.
Yeah, that's a good point, Jim. Area median income, or AMI, which we use all the time in the housing industry, so it's good to take a step back and break it down. Thanks for that. Basically it determines the median income within an area. So it's broken up by counties across the country, across the state of Colorado, et cetera. So in Summit County, the AMIs are, you know, the base AMIs are determined by HUD, and then the Summit Combined Housing Authority extrapolates from that to create AMIs across the spectrum and across building types. So 100% AMI, that would be the very median of the median income within Summit County. And where we're finding the greatest need in housing is the below 100%, but also above 100%. But basically anything below 120%, there's a strong need for housing, and in particular, the 80% AMI rentals.
Yeah.
Next, I'd like to turn it over to Lindsay to talk a little bit about the background and history of Lake Hill.
Good evening, everyone. Lindsay Newman with Norris Design. Kate, do you want to flip to the next slide? Thanks. So while the master plan for Lake Hill was developed in 2016, the history of the Lake Hill property as a future site for affordable housing dates back over 20 years. The town of Frisco's 3-mile plan identified the Lake Hill site as a desirable location for affordable workforce housing back in 2000. And the county's 10-mile master plan acknowledged the same thing 1 year later in 2001. These policies were retained in the plan updates in both 2005 and 2009. And the town of Frisco conducted a feasibility study in 2008 based on a concept plan showing 417 homes. And the goal for this property is to still be affordable workforce housing. Next slide. The Lake Hill site is shown in yellow here. It's located within proximate range to many existing community services, schools, parks, and open space. During our master planning process, multimodal connectivity routes were identified to understand how this neighborhood would integrate into the existing community infrastructure. And access to regional trails, which are shown in orange, create the opportunity for strong connections to Frisco and the greater Summit County. Integrating the Lake Hill neighborhood into the town of Frisco's existing community fabric was a very important discussion during the master planning process. Neighborhoods were studied in the adjacent community that have a similar mix of home types to understand what the appropriate scale and neighborhood density should be for Lake Hill. The neighborhoods are all highlighted in red, and they're a mixture of townhomes, multifamily, and also some single family homes. So in terms of scale, if you look at the Peak One neighborhood and Mountainside neighborhood at the bottom of the screen, these create a community that has diverse housing types. There's townhomes, single family, duplex. It's very similar in size at 38 acres, and it has a density of approximately 9.5 units per acre, which created a model for what the future Lake Hill neighborhood would feel like. The design for the master plan for Lake Hill responds to the existing conditions on site. The colors on the graphic are showing the slope analysis. Blue areas are the most developable, most flat areas, and then the red are the steepest. The roads on the master plan have been aligned to loop through the developable blue areas and follow the existing utilities to avoid any costly relocation. We have a large utility easement running through the site. The access points to the dam road are shown with the red asterisks. And these are areas where the grade meets the existing road and will not pose major challenges for grading. To the south of the site, we have an existing drainage, and this creates a really nice natural buffer to the Lake Forest condominiums, and that will remain as open space. Extensive community outreach was conducted during the master planning process. And all of the topics that are highlighted here in blue were the key themes that were synthesized from community open houses, surveys, focus groups, stakeholder meetings, and community conversations. The real big takeaway was that people wanted us to look at creating a safe, diverse, inclusive neighborhood that has adequate community facilities that are available on site, that is both sustainable and affordable. This is the master plan that was developed during the master planning process for Lake Hill. It's a conceptual plan, and it identified the potential for 436 affordable workforce homes, including both rental and ownership, in a diverse mix of apartments, condos, townhomes, single family homes. We located the home types on the neighborhood to create a transition from multifamily along I-70 to single family as you approach the Dillon Dam Road and the adjacent neighborhoods. What this does is allow the scale of the multifamily buildings to back up to the hillside along I-70, providing a sound barrier and maintain views for all of the other homes towards the 10-mile range, the lake, and maintain solar access for all of the homes. Our master plan identifies a community greenbelt that spans the southwest to the northeast of the site, and you'll see that in our zoning documents. It's carried through. We also have a community center identified and some trail loops.
All right. So the master planning process was done in 2016 through 2017, a year-long community planning process that provides the guidance for the next steps to be taken. And so the county has been working collaboratively with the town of Frisco, Cdot, utility providers, the Forest Service on next steps, which include collaborative planning for on-site and off-site infrastructure needs, traffic analysis, planning for necessary traffic improvements, as well as planning for recreation and trails connections that will be needed. And so the collaborative planning is underway and is ongoing. And the county is now initiating the rezoning process to start discussing the rezoning of this parcel from what's called NR2 zoning, natural resources. That's the zoning that all national forest land has. This was acquired from the Forest Service. It still has the NR2 zoning in place. And so this current step is to rezone the property from NR2 to a PUD, which is, it stands for Planned Unit Development. And it's basically a customized zoning that's going to be created based on the guidance in the master planning effort, or based on the guidance in the master plan. And then following the collaborative planning for infrastructure needs and the rezoning of the property, the next step will be to start really developing more detailed plans for what will be phase one and start planning, actually site planning phase one and then building the first phase of housing units. And just in terms of sort of a rough timeline on sort of best case scenario when we might be at a point where we'd be ready to start building the first phase of units, we're looking at about 2 years out. Jason, is that what you were saying?
Yeah, I mean, best case scenario is you look through the process of rezoning, the site plan, rezoning is probably going to take a year plus, site plan, et cetera. By the 2 years would probably be as soon as construction and houses would be available.
Okay. So with that, we just wanted to provide a little bit more context before we start talking about the zoning document. So the county just recently had an impact study completed, and I'm going to kick this over to Brandon from the Housing Department to do an overview of the key findings and recommendations in the Lake Hill Impact Study.
Thanks, Kate. So the county conducted a site impact study over the last 3 years. We're hoping to do it a little bit faster, but ran into some hurdles. An impact study is required to be prepared for major development projects as part of a preliminary review for a zoning amendment. The impact study analyzed the cumulative and proportional demand for services and facilities that would result from the development project, and it also estimates any initial and ongoing costs of providing those services and facilities. So the study really took into account the existing infrastructure, how it might provide service for a potential Lake Hill project, and the facilities for the proposed major development project that would be needed in addition to the existing facilities. The study estimates the proportional cost.
Oh, sorry, I keep doing that.
Such facilities and services that are a responsibility of the applicant, and to provide them proportional to and design the offset of the impacts to the zoning amendment. All right, next slide. So one of the major elements that we looked at in the impact study was traffic. And I know that's a community concern. And so I wanted to kind of bring that up first. As part of the impact study, we had a consultant conduct a traffic impact study that conducted roadway counts along the dam road in 2019. The study then looked at the projected build out of 2026 when we originally thought Lake Hill would be built out. We're expecting now it might take a little bit longer than that. And then it also looked at year 2040. Based on the traffic impact study, currently it found that all intersections are currently operating at level of service C or better, and then all side streets or approaches are operating at level of service D or better. However, the county understands that traffic may have increased over the last few years, so we will look to update this traffic study prior to the final rezoning submittal and possibly again later, as this project will be a multi-year project. Next slide. So just kind of continuing, Lake Hill is projected to generate approximately 2,462 average weekday daily trips, 166 trips per hour in the AM peak, and 207 trips per hour in the PM peak at build out. As I mentioned, currently all the study intersections operate overall at an acceptable level of service C or better, and all side street approaches at a level of service D or better. When you add Lake Hill, it really doesn't impact the traffic on the dam road that much. The study found that it will have little impact on the existing roadway network and study intersection except at North 10 Mile Drive. That intersection is highlighted in the red bubble on the screen. The study said to monitor the North 10 Mile Drive intersection to determine the need to signalize. However, if you go to the next slide, Kate, um, we're unsure if we'll actually do that because of the separate Cdot exit 203 interchange improvements that are being proposed. Right now, Cdot is undergoing a study to make the proposed improvements shown on this concept plan. And it's expected that these interchange improvements will improve flow and level of service on the dam road. You can see in this picture where immediately to the left of the roundabout on the right, there is actually a proposed tunnel. So a large chunk of the traffic that may want to go over to the Frisco Transit Center, Whole Foods, that whole complex over there could just go under the roadway there and likely take a large chunk of the traffic from the North 10 Mile Drive intersection and with the dam road, and then also the intersection of the dam road and Highway 9. Our understanding is that currently CDOT is undertaking some additional modeling to see if the project can be broken into phases, and the county will continue to work with CDOT on this project and work to update our traffic study with CDOT's traffic study as it moves forward. Next slide. In addition to looking at traffic as part of the master plan and the impact study, we have proposed to add a transit route along the dam road and 2 new transit stops adjacent to the Lake Hill development. The county estimated the cost of the transit stops at $150,000 and the operating costs associated with the summit stage for the new route to be about $200,000 per year. Next slide. In addition, the county, as part of the master plan, as part of the impact study, proposed extending the rec path along the dam road. So right now, the rec path around a little bit near the Lake Hill property actually goes to the south. It's proposed that we'll extend the rec path along the dam road. The exact alignment and type of the path is yet to be determined, but it's a half-mile extension. The idea really is to allow for pedestrian and bicycle trips, along the dam road to go all the way to the major shopping centers in Frisco. Hopefully that would also, and we would expect that would also reduce some of the car travel along the dam road. Half-mile extension is estimated to cost about $750,000. The maintenance of the rec path will be performed by Summit County Open Space and Trails. Next slide.
I think maybe Brandon, just one more thing to say on this slide
Sure.
is as part of the future planning, there's definitely going to be a lot of focus on making sure that there are safe crossings of Dillon Dam Road provided for pedestrians and bicyclists to access the rec path. One of the potential ideas for that crossing in the master plan is this concept of a pedestrian overpass, which is conceptually shown in this location based on the feasibility of doing it here with the grades. But it remains to be determined exactly what those crossings will look like. But that's, part of the design.
So next I want to move to water and wastewater, two critical infrastructure pieces. Right now the site does not have water service or wastewater. So as part of the impact study, we looked at what would be the most efficient way to provide the site with water and wastewater. The study really looked at all possible service providers, and it found that the town of Frisco is the most cost-effective water service provider. No additional water treatment capacity is needed to accommodate the project. However, pipe, well, and storage tank infrastructure are likely needed. Improvements are estimated to cost $4.6 million. TAP fees are not included in those cost estimates. Currently, the county and town of Frisco are in negotiations for a future water agreement. And as part of that, the county and town will discuss transferring some water rights to the town of Frisco to ensure they have enough water to serve their population in the future. In terms of wastewater, this has been one of the most challenging items for Lake Hill. You may have seen something in the newspaper. The Frisco Sanitation District is by far the most cost-effective sewer service provider, but the Sand District estimates that additional treatment capacity is needed in addition to flow equalization, pump station, and pipe infrastructure. Those improvements are estimated to cost $13.7 million, including tap fees. That's assuming that Frisco Sand District requires the county to pay a full $8 million up front for a plant expansion. Currently, the county is continuing to negotiate and meet with the Sand District, and hopefully we'll have an agreement in the near future to be able to become part of that district. One of the issues is that right now the Lake Hill site is outside of the Frisco Sanitation District service area. So the county would have to petition to be a part of the district. And so the Frisco Sanitation District has a lot of leverage and it makes it challenging. Next slide. In addition to the infrastructure analysis, the impact study also did a fiscal impact analysis. The net impact to the county's general fund was approximately $17,000 per year, or negative $41 per housing unit. The fiscal impact analysis assumed 100% of the residents are net new to Summit County. The county wasn't sure if this, we found it unlikely that would actually be true because a lot of the residents moving to Lake Hill would likely be coming from other places in the county. So the analysis also provided scenarios where only 50 to 75% are net new. This would lesser the impacts on the county general fund. Looking at,
Sorry.
that's okay. Looking at the town of Frisco, general fund impacts, it's actually expected to have a net positive of over $100,000 per year, assuming 100% net new population. The study assumed that Lake Hill residents would do most of their shopping in Frisco. They likely wouldn't do all of it. We're certain of that, but by percentage, it is expected that the majority would do their shopping in Frisco. In addition, the Library Fund and Road and Bridge Fund receive small tax increases annually. Next slide. So looking at the total offsite infrastructure costs, including the water and the sewer, bike ped path, transit service, we found that it was going to cost approximately $22 million in offsite infrastructure costs. So of course, the county will continue to look for grant funding from federal government and the state to help offset some of these costs. And we hope that we're confident that we can at least offset some of them. I think that's it.
All right. So with that, we were going to do an overview of the rezoning process, or the rezoning, the zoning document. So right now, just initiated the first step of the rezoning, the work session, working collaboratively with the county and the town of Frisco to develop that zoning document and then rezone the property. We're using a variety of means to try to do our best to get the word out to the community and raise public awareness about the project and really highlight opportunities that are going to be available over the next few months to provide input to the county's 10-mile planning commission, the Board of County Commissioners, and to stay informed as the project moves forward. I know a lot of employers and individuals in need of housing are interested in keeping track, keeping tabs on what's happening and when housing is going to be available. So we're trying to do a good job of keeping the Lake Hill project webpage on the county's website updated with all the latest information. All these documents that we're discussing here today can be found on the website. These meeting slides and the meeting recordings will be available on the website, and we'll keep that up to date as we move forward with Planning Commission public hearings, Board of County Commissioners hearings, to make sure everybody knows what's coming, how to provide input, how to review all the relevant materials. So the Lake Hill webpage is definitely something to keep an eye on. We're also developing and keeping updated an interested parties list, so we can be sending out emails and other, blog posts, blasts to let people know about next steps and opportunities to review information and provide input as we move forward. So the zoning document itself, the PUD, essentially is using the guidance in the Lake Hill Master Plan. And what we're doing is codifying the guidance in the master plan, making it essentially code. And so the content of the document includes these items listed here: permitted land uses, permitted housing types, different development standards for things like building height and setbacks and parking requirements. And the overall goal is to strike the right balance between providing predictability for the community and also develop future development partners, while also making sure that we're maintaining enough flexibility for this project to be developed over a number of years in phases as housing needs and market conditions change over time. So the key guidance in the master plan that's being used to shape the zoning document, here you can see the land use plan from the master plan is being used to develop the section of the zoning document that talks about permitted uses and the development plan. And so those elements of the design that Lindsay went over, with the highest density, kind of largest multifamily buildings tucked up against I-70, and then the lowest density, smallest scale development down adjacent to the Dillon Dam Road and the neighboring properties, with smaller single family duplex and townhouses in that location, and a sizable amount of open space preserved adjacent to the neighboring property along the dam road. Some medium density, kind of mixed residential in this location, with some centrally located community facilities, and then that central green belt and the surrounding open space buffers. That's all carrying through into the zoning. This graphic shows, just in a little bit more detail, recommendations on mix of housing styles and number of units that are recommended. And so, using all of that guidance, the zoning document identifies 4 distinct planning areas and then outlines the permitted land uses, the permitted number of homes, and then other development standards for these 4 different planning areas. So we've got planning area A being that low density single family duplex, 1 to 2 store, or I'm sorry, 2-story development, and then planning area B being a real mixed residential area with up to 3-story buildings, real mix of townhomes, maybe some multifamily buildings, but no more than 3 stories, and then some centrally located community facilities are allowed in planning area B. And so the uses that have been identified as potentially potential uses to be developed within that community area would include a community center that might include flexible space, indoor, outdoor community space, community room, potentially incorporation of a child care center or some leasing offices for property management, storage, in planning area B. Planning area C being that higher density, multi-family buildings that can provide a mix of rental apartments and for sale condominiums along that upper section of the property, kind of tucked into I-70. And then planning area D is an open space that provides kind of a continuous accessible open space that will link the development from east to west with trails and passive and active recreation amenities. Some of the permitted uses in the open space tract include parks and open space and trails, playgrounds, potential dog park, and things of that nature. And then this is the conceptual development plan that's in the draft PUD. And you can see, it's really based on the conceptual development plan from the Lake Hill Master Plan. Some of the key components to note that are being carried over are the 3 acres of undeveloped open space being preserved in the southwest corner of the site, adjacent to the Lake Forest condos. Also that smallest scale development adjacent to the dam road and the neighboring properties, and then these potential transit stops along the dam road at the 2 access points to the neighborhood. The open space plan shows 7.3 acres of designated open space within the neighborhood. That includes a 4-acre central green belt, 3 acres of this native forest buffer on the south end of the property that includes steep slopes and a natural drainage area, as well as additional open space that will be provided within planning areas A, B, and C. And that includes open space buffers around the perimeter of the site, as well as some mini parks or pocket parks included within the individual development areas. And then there's also plans included within the zoning document to build an interconnected network of safe pedestrian and bicycle trails within the development itself, as well as providing connections to the adjacent rec path and missing connections to the town of Frisco and Summit Boulevard, with, like we said, the safe crossing of the dam road. Then the PUD goes on to outline a number of development standards. We're not going to go into all the details, but just so you can get a feel for the content that's included in the document, the draft PUD is on the Lake Hill webpage. So you can go in and take a look at, what's proposed on all these topic areas. Excuse me. We just provided here just what this graphic does a nice job of explaining sort of the overall design of the neighborhood, kind of carrying forward this idea of creating this sound break along I-70 with the tallest, highest density buildings tucked up against the highway, preserving views to the south and stepping down the development in size and scale as we get closer to the Dillon Dam Road. So transitioning to 1 to 2 story single family duplex buildings along the dam road with preservation of this open space buffer to buffer from the dam road. The PUD does also outline infrastructure improvements that will be required in conjunction with developing the property in phases over the coming years. And one thing to say about this is we just talked about the impact study that's recently been completed to analyze those on-site and off-site infrastructure needs. And the county is currently in the process, like Brandon mentioned, of working with the different utility providers to really establish plans for connecting the Lake Hill neighborhood with the necessary utilities and making the necessary infrastructure improvements. So as this rezoning proposal moves through the county rezoning process and plans for the extension of utilities are finalized, then this section of the PUD is going to be further developed and refined. Right now, at this early stage in the process, the PUD document has just been drafted to reflect kind of currently anticipated plans for the required infrastructure improvements, but additional details are going to be included as they become available. And then on other implementation provisions to be included in the zoning document are just listed here. This is a conceptual phasing plan that's included in the master plan. And so you can kind of get a feel for just an idea of how this project might be phased over a number of years and sort of the types of units and the number of units that may be included in the various phases. But definitely a project of this size and scale is not going to be developed all at once. It's going to be developed in phases over a number of years. And so, yeah, just to kind of get a feel for this, the phasing guidance is being left kind of intentionally flexible to allow future site development to be programmed that will best meet the changing workforce housing needs over time and respond to market conditions as they change over time, since we know it's going to be a multi-year build out. Just some general provisions that are included in all zoning documents sort of wrap up the final sections of the PUD. And then just wanted to kind of close with this slide, just a reminder of, where we are in the process. We're right here, really just trying to get the word out that we're initiating this rezoning work session. The next step is going to be a discussion with the Frisco Planning Commission on February 3rd. As we said, this property is not inside the town of Frisco, but we very much want to collaborate and communicate and get input from the town to make sure that it's developed in a way that's cohesive. And so going to Frisco Planning Commission February 3rd, and then the county's 10 Mile Basin Planning Commission is going to have a public work session on February 10th. And then all the input from the community outreach, the planning commissions will then be relayed to the Board of County Commissioners at a work session that we're targeting for early March. So that will be finalized and that'll be put up on the website soon. And then, like we said, everything that comes out of this work session process will then feed into preparing a formal zoning application that gets submitted to the county later in 2022. So that's kind of our overall presentation. And with that, we were going to launch into the question and answers. So Lindsay, you want to start reading those off?
So we have quite a few already in our chat. So I will get that started and keep sending them in as you have them. The first question is, has an environmental impact been studied?
So an environmental impact study, the process, used by the Forest Service, which would have happened during the transition of ownership from the Forest Service over to the county. The county, there is not a requirement for another environmental impact study for the zoning of Lake Hill.
Yeah, but it did happen at the time of land acquisition.
Yeah, it's more of a National Forest Service.
Yeah, and one thing to say about that is based on the location of this property kind of being, sandwiched between I-70 and the Dillon Dam Road, and then the logging of mountain pine beetle and, infrastructure, high pressure gas lines, et cetera, that have been built in this area over the years. It had sort of lost its forest character and was identified by the Forest Service as a property for disposal. And so those conditions led to the Lake Hill Administrative Site Act, which resulted in the county purchasing the property from the Forest Service in 2016 for the purpose of workforce housing.
Next question is about traffic. What do you propose to do about the traffic on the Dillon Dam Road?
So yeah, the traffic has been studied by a variety of traffic studies over the years, most recently the Lake Hill traffic analysis in 2019. And the traffic study by Fox Tuttle Hernandez, a reputable traffic firm, also following the standards, show that the Lake Hill does not significantly impact the traffic on the dam road. The existing conditions, or I should say the existing traffic roadways and intersections are not negatively impacted. There are existing conditions that negatively impact Lake Hill, such as, skier and snow events that, that trigger closures and traffic jams across the county. But that is an existing condition, and the traffic that Lake Hill brings onto the Dillon Dam Road actually has a pretty minimal impact, according to the traffic study.
So following on that, we'll stay on traffic for another moment. When will the traffic study from 2019 be updated? I guess when do you propose that you would do the traffic counts? What time of year?
Yet to be determined, but probably later this year, here in 2022, summer probably, just to capture that peak, see what it looks like. But the date and the time has not yet been determined.
How will a new rec path connect Lake Hill to Summit Boulevard, and how will that be incorporated into the Dillon Dam Road?
The exact alignment has not been determined at this point. We know that we will be doing improvements to the Dillon Dam Road, access to the rec path, creation of new rec path. But all of that still is yet to be determined. And as we move along through from zoning into site development, that will start to sort itself out.
Someone asked what AMI means. I believe Jason answered this at the beginning. And if you missed it, it's the area median income.
Where
And
like
I don't know if
50% of people make less and 50% of people make more, but it's just a nice indication of generally what income levels are in the community so that we know how to price housing units so that people who live and work here and make kind of those median incomes can afford the housing.
the next question is, can you tell me what the setbacks are from Lake Dillon?
The lake?
It's all on the north side of the dam road. I don't know the exact measurement from the dam road to the lake, but it's not, it's all on the other side of the road per se.
Yeah, and there's a decent size open space buffer proposed along the dam road to preserve kind of an open space tree buffer along the dam road. But we're not on the lake side of the road.
The next two questions are actually both from Prospect Point. They would both like to understand, will a sound wall be built on the highway for this neighborhood in Prospect Point? Just any information about sound abatements planned along I-70.
Along I-70.
At this point, there is no proposed sound walls along I-70.
There's a significant grade change.
There is.
So the topography really does, when you're standing out on the site, I was actually surprised that the dam road is louder than I-70 in this location because of the way the topography, the noise carries up from the dam road more so than down from the I-70 in this location.
Someone wants to know where they can find a recording of this. So the presentation will be posted to the Lake Hill website. And I guess we can post this recording there as well.
Yeah,
Yes.
I was gonna pull this over. I'm gonna put the web address up on the screen.
Great. So the dam road closes on a very regular basis. What do you think the overall impact for residents will be at Lake Hill?
So the closure location of the dam road will be just on the other side of Lake Hill. So it would be the same for Lake Hill as Prospect Point, as Lakeview, the other, what is it, Lakeview? That's right adjacent to it. So it would not really have any impact other than the road being closed from Lake Hill to Dillon.
Right, and then there's gonna be, the roundabout access points could be turnarounds there.
Yep.
Do we have an interested parties email? We have a request for someone to stay in the loop with a mailing.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone who's participating in any of these virtual meetings when you're logging in, you're using your email address, and we're able to get a list of all the participants and their email addresses. So if you logged into this meeting with an email address, then we have your email and we're going to add all of you to the interested parties list. Or else you're welcome to, go to the county website. This is the address here. Or you can just Google Lake Hill housing and it's the first thing that comes up. And there's I believe if there's not already, we're going to have an area where you can click, that you want to be added to the interested parties list.
So the next question is regards to if there will be a tax increase for Frisco homeowners, and then also will there be an opportunity to vote on this project? And I think that Kate, you might have touched on the process, but maybe just go through that really quick again and when there will be additional hearings. So
the property is in the unincorporated county. So the review authority is Summit County governments. The way it works with a a rezoning like this, it's a class 5 process. So it goes first to the county's 10-mile basin planning commission, and they review the application and then make a recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners as to whether it should be approved, denied, approved with conditions. And then the Board of County Commissioners is the final review authority. So there will be public hearings with both the 10-mile planning commission and the Board of County Commissioners that will be publicly noticed, and there will be opportunities for public comment to be provided in advance of those meetings to the planning commissioners and the Board of County Commissioners. You can send emails to them in advance of the meetings. You can also, there's a public comment period during the public work sessions where you're able to express whatever input you want. And then the Board of County Commissioners will make the final decision. And no, there is no voting. Public voting.
Thanks. The next is relating to community facilities. What will be the expected impact on public schools, and who will be providing police, fire, and recycling services?
So the school impact, as a part of the impact analysis, was to look at the public schools. And how that is factored in is the consultant looked at other workforce housing projects, looked at the student generation rate of those projects, looked at other national student generation rates to get a student generation rate, for the various grades. But one thing to remember is to live in Lake Hill, you have to be a local worker in Summit County. So in reality, most of the kids that will be living in Lake Hill are already within the school system. But assuming that 100% of the occupants of Lake Hill are brand new to the county, which would be probably theoretically impossible in order to actually get into Lake Hill, there is adequate capacity within the school systems. And in regard to police, fire, et cetera, it's a county project, so it will be the county police department, but the county and the towns have interdepartmental contracts and relationships where if for example, if Frisco's have all of their officers tied up on a call, then the county will back them up and vice versa. In regard to fire, Summit Fire and EMS, this is their district. And, trash recycling would be one of the various private trash recycling companies.
On that note, Jason, there was also a comment about road construction, ongoing maintenance for roads, and snow plowing for roads.
Within Lake Hill?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yes, there would be, so Lake Hill will have a variety of common elements that will probably have a master HOA that takes care of all of the internal, roads, open spaces, and we'll have to provide maintenance to that. We will have separate sub areas within the different planning areas because there's a lot of different building types within there, from single family, duplex, townhome to apartments, where there will be a variety of different common elements and common responsibilities that the various planning types will be responsible for. So in addition to the the open space, home exteriors, there will be road maintenance, et cetera.
All right, on to another topic. Once we get to the building and sale phase, will this process be similar to Smith Ranch with a lottery, et cetera? And will there be realtors involved?
It would probably be somewhat similar. It has not been defined by any means. And I probably couldn't speak to exactly what the process is in Smith Ranch right now, but we will be working with the Summit Combined Housing Authority for qualifications and probably some of the sales. There will be realtors that also bring clients in, similar to other projects, Smith Ranch, Blue 52, Dillon Valley Vistas. It will be very similar to what has been done in the past.
And we have another comment here about road noise this one's actually on the dam road as opposed to the highway. Will there be berms and noise walls implemented for existing condo complexes?
We are not providing sound mitigation for existing condo complexes on the dam road. There is a buffer zone on the Lake Hill side where we're going to be having that tree open space buffer, but we're not putting in sound mitigation.
Yeah, and it's a sizable buffer. I mean, there's 3 acres of mature, native forest being preserved between the Lake Hill development and the adjacent Lake Forest condos, and then again, a buffer along the dam road, retaining tree, existing tree cover.
So knowing that workforce housing is a huge issue right now, why is there not more high density housing, less single family, so you can get the most people possible there? Town of Frisco provided a lot of single family houses already in the Peak 1 development by Mountainside.
Yeah,
Let's-
so with Lake Hill, Kate's pulling up the chart.
Here, yeah, we'll go to the
Lake Hill is
breakdown.
Is multifamily, with the smallest percentage being single family.
Yeah, I think, in this master plan, this is a nice graphic. There's
Yeah.
300 multifamily units, 85 townhomes, and 51 single family duplex units. So you can kind of see all of these red buildings are multifamily buildings with a total of 300 multifamily units.
And if I can just jump in too for a second. One
Yeah,
of the goals for the master plan was to create a continuum of housing so that somebody may start out renting in a multifamily building, but then eventually move into a townhome or a single family. That way they can kind of progress through the neighborhood, don't necessarily have to find somewhere completely different to move to, and ideally become a resident of this neighborhood.
Yeah, and Lake Hill kind of reflects the housing needs where the multifamily rentals are in need the most, while all areas of housing and across the housing continuum are in need right now. That is why the majority are the multifamily rental properties, but it does provide that housing continuum for people to move up.
Will we be working with Denver Water to ensure unnecessary dam closures?
Well, I don't know that we have any control over when Denver Water chooses to close the dam, honestly.
yeah.
Will the county issue RFPs for developers and builders to build this project?
Yes, we will. And if you would like, and there's been a number of developers that have reached out about this project and others, and you can sign up on the county's website to be notified when the county issues an RFP, and you can tailor the notice to what you're interested in, so that you're not getting an RFP for cleaning services or something like that, but specifically for certain types of developments, et cetera.
Where will the drainage from the development be directed? Kate, maybe if you pull up that site analysis, we can take a look at
Oh, yeah.
sort of the high point and low point. And of course, we haven't gone into this level of detail yet.
But there were some conceptual grading and drainage planning. There was some conceptual planning done at the master planning stage.
Yes, so there will be detention ponds and storm drain facilities to capture the water, to settle it, and to remove sediments from it prior to it moving downstream, similar to all development projects.
Someone wants to know if we're at a point where we could share price ranges for the different types of homes, and I can answer that. We are not at that point yet, but our goal is to provide a range of AMIs to hit a wide variety of need in all of the different segments, the different types of housing.
I mean, there is information on the Housing Authority's website where, when you go to resources and AMI, there's a table that's updated annually, and it shows recommended sales prices for sale housing and recommended maximum rental rates for rental housing for the different AMI levels. So knowing that we're talking about providing housing for a range of AMI, up to about 120% AMI, or, potentially to be determined. You can at least kind of see where your income falls on that spreadsheet, and what would be the home price that you would qualify for either a rental or an ownership unit. And we can provide that link maybe on the website, just so that people have easy access to look at those numbers.
Hey, this is Rob with the Housing Authority. I can go ahead and just mention it too. It's www.summithousing.us, and there's a tab called Resources. And under that tab, you'll see area median income, and that's where you can find it.
Yeah.
Someone wants to know if with traffic study, we would be able to estimate any effects from noise generated from additional traffic. So in a sound study.
Oh.
On the dam road. From the dam road to Frisco, basically.
I would say that, yeah, the traffic study does not go into noise. And again, the people that will be living here in Lake Hill are already here and working in Frisco, Silverthorne, Dillon, Breckenridge. But the housing just is unavailable currently. And so we have a lot of in-commuters coming in, probably creating more traffic. But by having and creating workforce housing within Summit County, we actually hope to reduce traffic overall in many areas.
Maybe Jim, do you have any input on what would actually trigger the requirement for a sound study in conjunction with a development application? Because I don't believe that this development hits that trigger point, but maybe you could.
Well, there is no codified trigger point. No, it's kind of a subjective call. If we feel that some particular use is obviously going to have a significant noise impact, then we may require it. So we'll duly note that comment, and we'll talk about whether or not we feel Lake Hill rezoning should need some sort of noise analysis. Whether it would be at the rezoning stage or later on at site plan, when we're really looking at, what kind of projects we're going to be building on the property, might be the more appropriate place. But yeah, there is no kind of codified, measurable guidance in our code that would say this would or wouldn't trigger some sort of noise study.
Well, we can note that comment, and then it can be considered, as to whether or not it should be required. Typically, it's for different, more like industrial operations that have a significant noise impact, not so much for residential developments.
It may even be going down as more vehicles are electrified and buses are electrified, et cetera.
Right. And I think one of the things we talked about in the daytime session today is with this development occurring along the dam road and the traffic improvements that are going to be made out to the development, there's likely going to be significant traffic calming and reductions in traffic speeds as improvements are made to create more of a residential character for this stretch of road. So with, narrowing drive lanes and adding bicycle and pedestrian lanes and, improved intersections like roundabouts, and, we're likely going to see vehicles traveling slower through kind of a more residential zone, which could have an impact of reducing vehicle noise since they're not traveling as quickly. I'm not a sound engineer, but that's just a thought.
Do you anticipate that eligibility to move into or purchase any Lake Hill housing will go through the Summit Combined Housing Authority?
Yes, it will. We do anticipate that.
Someone mentioned that it doesn't look like the single family has garages. Is this correct? Is there an opportunity to revisit?
That I likely the single family will have garages. It's hard to, these are very conceptual drawings, but we're planning to have storage facilities, not facilities like a storage facility, but storage lockers and bins for, bikes within the apartment rentals, bikes, the winter and summer gear, the townhome. Storage is one of the big things that we look at in our developments to make sure that there's ample storage for the lifestyles that are lived in Summit County, which garages in the single family homes.
One thing to note is, this conceptual development plan isn't really at that level of detail where we're specifying all of that, but in the Lake Hill master plan, there's a whole section on recommended parking. And so it talks in more detail about how parking is planned to be accommodated for the different unit types. So you can't really see anything graphically on here on single family. You can see, if you can see my cursor, that like these townhouses that would be tucked into the green belts, there's an alley coming through here, and these would be like alley loaded garages for the townhouses. And so you kind of see these alley loaded garages for townhouses on the graphic, and you also see carports here that include storage along this stretch of road. But the single family and duplex garages aren't depicted because it's just not that detailed of a drawing yet.
So we have a comment about revisiting the traffic study, which Jason, you've already hit on, that we will be conducting an additional traffic study in the coming year.
Yeah, and after completion or after that 203 improvement, there's going to be a change in the conditions.
Yep.
I think there was some confusion between students being in the school system already, but then someone heard that the projection for residents is 100% new to the county. So I think there was some confusion there.
Yeah, so the studies assumed it's a 100% new to the county because they can't really determine exactly how many people are already existing or not here. So the studies took the most conservative approach of 100% new occupant, new people to the county occupying Lake Hill. We know that that's not true because in order to move into Lake Hill, you have to be a local worker. While there may be a small percentage of new people, the vast majority are people that are already here.
We have somebody who says they very much support Lake Hill. Please move forward. Has the hurdle regarding provision of sanitary sewer been handled?
Yeah, we're working through the issues with the sanitary sewer. There's still, there's lots of issues that aren't handled at this point in time, that being one of them, but it's all part of the development process, working through these issues, and we will continue to work through sanitary sewer as well.
And the last question is, how will this affect property values in the area?
Likely it will have no effect on property values in the area. The market rate property values, I guess they might go up because they're, that is what market rate properties values have been doing in Summit County since the Great Recession. But we haven't seen any of the deed restricted projects have any negative or positive impact on property values. It's property values are really supply and demand, and Summit County is in high demand, and market properties are in short supply.
There's some studies that have been done on that recently too, and I can't remember the titles of them, but showing essentially what you just said, based on studies of what's happened to property values adjacent to different types of neighborhoods like this. Do you
Yeah,
recall,
I
I don't
mean,
know if you guys recall the studies, but I think they were somewhat unique to our area and mountain resort communities.
I don't recall the name.
Maybe I'll have to see if I can find them and we can post them. I feel like Melanie Reese and those folks sent them our way.
Somebody wanted to know more about CDOT's plan to change the intersection and turn lane at the Starbucks intersection, as it's already a huge problem in the turn
let's go
lane.
to-
Oh, with the slight uphill
Should I
climb.
go to the
Yeah,
I think
map?
that is a part of the Cdot intersection study and realignment.
Oh, here, this one.
yeah, there you go.
Okay,
So they do have a proposed update.
coming in
that intersection.
here.
The new intersection will, completely change the dynamics of the existing conditions. It's hard to I mean, I can't speak to what it will or will not do, but, as we coordinate with CDOT and as that new interchange becomes a reality, it will not function as it currently does today.
Yeah.
Somebody would like to discuss financing for infrastructure and how that will be achieved.
So the project will be financed primarily with the housing funds. Housing funds are primarily the 5A funds through the housing sales tax initiative. That is 0.725% of sales taxes go towards housing. There's additional like impact fees, et cetera, that are on top of that. And so the project will be developed in combination with the housing funds, grants, et cetera, that we'll be pursuing from the state and federal. And then in addition to, probably and very likely public-private partnerships with developers. We will, workforce housing, developing below market housing isn't something that happens naturally. And so the county and then the other towns as well, on their projects, subsidize those gaps to make it viable for private developers to develop below market workforce housing.
All right. Do we just have one more?
Yeah, I think we have one more. Someone wants to know how long to expect construction to occur and how much construction noise should they expect?
Construction of the entirety of the project will take several years in phases, and it's hard to say that noise dissipates, but it's hard to say exactly how it would be and how long it will be, because as you move away from the various wherever that point source where you're considering it to be noise, it will get quieter as it goes away. But we anticipate that with this size of a project, it's going to take many years to develop. And there may be triggers where we develop a portion of it, for example, only. Let's say we develop 200 units and then we need to make some road or sewer or whatever type of infrastructure upgrade. So then we've developed the first 200 units, make those upgrades, then it starts again. So as we work through that, the phasing will further define itself, but it's going to take years.
I think one thing maybe to note is that there are requirements in the county code for construction parameters for noise. And so there's things like hours of operation, which I think is typically 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And then, there's certain days of the week. I think I forget exactly. But there's different requirements in the county code to control, the overall construction operations to try to minimize impacts on adjacent property owners and set hours of operation and things like that.
Yeah, it will be built in accordance to the county codes of construction hours of operation, similar to the projects where people are currently at. They were probably Frisco codes at the time, but that's very similar. There's cutoff times where people can't be working all night, and like Kate said, quiet days, et cetera.
All
Um,
right. Well, thanks everyone. We got through the entire Q&A, which is great. So thanks for sticking with us a little bit longer. We just wanted to make sure we had an opportunity to answer all the questions. And like we said, this presentation is going to be posted on the county website, and the recordings from these sessions, the two sessions today, will be available, as well as all the other information that we've referenced in the conversation today. So let me just get, this keeps happening to me at the end. My computer freezes when I'm trying to put that web address up. But we put it up earlier, so hopefully everybody has it. It was also in the meeting notice that went out in the paper, and that got emailed out to everyone. So and if you can't find the web address, just Google some Lake Hill housing, and you'll get right to the Lake Hill webpage. So next step is February 3rd, Town of Frisco Planning Commission, and then February 10th, 10 Mile Planning Commission. And then tentatively looking at a BOCC work session in early March, TBD, but we'll put it on the website. And stay tuned. Thanks so much for your participation tonight.
All right. Thank you, Kate.
All right. Have a
Everyone.
good night, everyone.